Before she was first bled, when she still had the name her parents gave her, Marion Shaw was a maid at a townhouse in the south of Prain. On that morning, the morning she would later come to identify as the beginning of her second life, she knelt on the hardwood floor of the parlor, sleeves rolled up to her bony elbows, a scrub brush in her hand. Across the room, in an upholstered armchair, Lady Gertrude sat, watching her work. She was a shrewd woman, blue-eyed with silver hair and a pinched aristocratic nose spattered with age spots and freckles. While other nobles preferred to leave their maids to their labor, Lady Gertrude preferred instead to preside over them, watching with a falcon's eye as if to ensure that her help earned every penny she paid them. "You missed a spot," she sneered, seizing her cane to point at a minuscule stain on the floorboards. Marion batted a dark curl out of her eye. She did what little she could to mind her tone. "I'll be more careful, m'lady." "You ought to be. There's girls more handsome and less sluggish than you who'd be happy to have your position," she said, and she bit down on a brittle tea cookie, spitting crumbs when she spoke again. "You've grown slow and lazy. I can see it in your eyes. The little light there was in them has long gone out, and now you expect to drag yourself through my halls on your hands and knees like a common drunk, with your hair unkempt and your apron stained." "Rest assured, this floor will be spotless by the time I'm through with it," said Marion, cutting her short. She could feel the rage pooling in the pit of her belly like bile. "You have my word." At this, Lady Gertrude merely frowned, the slack skin of her brow wrinkling like fabric. Marion couldn't help but think that she was rather lonely. Long widowed, without children of her own, or companions or family to speak of, she had no means of social stimulation apart from Sunday Mass. Thus, every day she followed Marion from room to room, watching her scrub the floors and polish the silver, sometimes, if her health allowed it, going so far as to trail after her into the kitchens, where she'd remain until her aching knees drove her back to the comfort of her parlor. Marion polished the floor until she could see her own reflection in it, wide-set eyes gaping back at her, a firm nose and full lips slightly parted, tongue tucked behind her teeth, skin a deep tawny, hair a mess of curls. She frowned at herself just as the church bells rang 12. With a ragged sigh, Marion peeled her gaze from her own reflection, dropped her scrub brush into the bucket with a splash, and pressed slowly to her feet. In accordance with the new labor laws, all workers were promised an hour's rest at the top of their 7th hour of work, a precautionary measure enacted after no fewer than 6 girls worked themselves to death after 20-hour shifts in a cotton mill. And while Lady Gertrude was not a particularly kind woman, she was a great adherent to order and strict regulation, regardless of whether it was a benefit to her. Thus, when the clock struck noon, she was quick to dismiss Marion. Unlike many of her set, Lady Gertrude couldn't afford to buy herself a townhome more than a spitting distance from the more unsightly corners of Prain, and it took Marion only a few minutes to reach the cusp of the slums. Here, Marion's pace quickened, and she felt her spirits lift, if only slightly. Gradually, the fine brick townhomes gave way to shanties and warehouses cast in a pall of smog. Marion shouldered down the crowded streets of the stockyards and adjoining meat market, trudging through half-frozen manure and past the racks of cattle corpses that hung, swinging by the hooves. Instinctively, she rounded her shoulders against the blast of the coming cold.